All right. My name is Say Doctor. I'm a program manager on the Azure Active Directory B2C team. So let's get started. So maybe during this conference you've heard the term digital transformation. So what does that mean? Well, in this context, you want to be able to create a digital relationship with your customers across all these different touch points. Having one digital relationship with your customers across all of your different applications is not just good for your customers, your consumers. It's also good for your business. I mean, imagine one application that's doing quite well. You create a relationship with that customer. You can pull them into these other applications to make them successful as well. So I've heard from a lot of you here at Ignite, like, I have a new Greenfield app that I'm building, and I don't want to worry about the identity thing. Or, hey, I've already got multiple apps within my environment, but I've got multiple identity systems, and I'd like to create that one relationship with my customers. Or maybe I've got this on-prem thing, and I'm moving to the cloud, and I'd like to use identity as a service. So if you want to make that customer connection easier, cheaper, and definitely more secure, we've got something for you. So here we've got our customers, our consumers, or in the case of government, our citizens. And they're bringing their identity, their Facebook, their Google, their LinkedIn. And here you've got your environment, your company, your apps, your analytics, your existing infrastructure. You've got CRM, marketing, automation. You need to tie this together, create that connection with your customers. So Azure Active Directory B2C does just that. It allows you to securely authenticate your customers with their own identity, and it's fully branded. So you get to control the look and feel of those experiences. So Azure Active Directory B2C is built on the same proven technology as Azure Active Directory itself. And businesses rely on this technology every single day. We're almost 1 billion users on Azure Active Directory alone. And it does 60 billion authentications per month. So let's talk about what requirements there are for identity and access management platform as a whole. When we went out to build Azure Active Directory B2C, we had 3 main pillars that we're going after. Customer-centric and flexible, secure and reliable, and ready for every business. So I'm going to dive a little deeper into each of these. So let's start with customer-centric and flexible. So I've heard from a lot of you, I need to control the brand. I bring my own HTML and CSS. And it's great that you have native support for 36 languages, but I need to override any string. Or I need to brand the emails, or even bring my own email service and control that entire experience. And that's why we designed B2C to be fully flexible. And we've got some great demos of that coming up. Next is secure and reliable. So we've got the top identity experience working in Microsoft and in identity in particular. And we're always learning. We've got millions of attacks occurring across our identity system that we're thwarting. And we're always figuring out ways to make their life more difficult. We've got these amazing security boot camps internally where we bring the bleeding edge of security research to our engineering team. One of the topics that I always find interesting is the human psychology of security and how to make users uncomfortable when some sort of phishing attack is occurring. If you didn't catch Alex Weinhardt's 4 p.m. session yesterday, it's really fascinating. It talks about identity protection. You should go watch the recording. We offer an SLA of 99.9% uptime, and we have devs and PMs on call that are, on call 24/7. If you were to get like an outage of some sort, I'm on the on-call rotation. So if you were to open a Sev1 ticket, I would get paged in the middle of the night. Last, there's ready for every business. So it's probably cheaper than what you're running on premise. We offer a generous free tier of 50,000 users or 50,000 authentications. And I actually had one customer come up to me and say, I love your service, but I haven't hit 50,000 users yet, and I probably won't. So I almost feel guilty that I'm not going to pay you a dime. And he's like, almost, not quite. So ready for every business. I hear a lot about, hey, I need to integrate with this system, or when sign-up finishes, I need to go trigger this flow over here. That's why we've designed this flexible policy framework. So I'm going to dig into that next. So what is a flexible policy framework? It's a workflow that controls the UX, the user experience, the attributes that you collect from the user, the data you store in the directory, and the claims that you return back to the application. There's two flavors of it. The first one we're talking about right here is built-in templates. So you can think of built-in templates as a set of ready-to-go templates for the most common scenarios, like sign up, sign in, edit profile, and reset password. And that list will continue to grow. It's still fully customizable, so you bring your own HTML and CSS. So to help me illustrate this, we're going to talk about this fictitious company. So this is called Wingtip Toys. Wingtip Toys has a bunch of physical locations. They sell toys, obviously, but they've gotten into the game rental business, and this is really booming for them. So they want to create a web experience and a mobile experience where they can have their customers log in, find a game rental, reserve it, and so they can go pick it up in the store. So we're gonna build a sign-in and sign-up experience using a built-in policy and see what this looks like. All right, so here we've got the B2C tenant. Now, if you wanted to go create your own B2C tenant, you'd go up to here, you'd say new, and you'd search for B2C. And you'd go click create. And that's how you'd get a B2C tenant. I've already got my B2C tenant, and I've gone up to this corner here, and I've switched into my B2C tenant. So now when I search on the bar here for more services, you can click the little star and get it to pin over here. So if you click this star here, it'll pin on this side. So I've got my B2C tenant, and now I'm going to go into sign up or sign in policies, and I'm going to click add. I'm going to give it a name here. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my identity provider. So built-in has a set of ready-to-go identity providers where you just need to drop in your app registration. So you go to the Facebook Dev Portal or Google Dev Portal, create an app, and then drop in your app ID, to create these IDPs in B2C. And so I've got a bunch of consumers that are young adults. I'm expecting them to use their Google, their Facebook, or if they don't have either of those, we can just use their email to have them sign up. Now, sign up attributes. This is the data that I want to collect from the user as they sign up. You don't have to go overboard here. I mean, you can always have them edit their profile later and collect more attributes if you want to make this sign-up experience speedy. So I'm just going to collect their email address and their postal code. Application claims. So after they finish the sign-up experience, there's going to be a token that's returned from B2C to your application. And you get to control what claims are in that token. So I'm going to send the user object's ID and the email address. And if I need to, I can always call a graph API and extract additional information out of the directory later. Multi-factor authentication. I could go turn that on, but I'm not going to use multi-factor authentication for this demo. We've got another one coming up where I'm going to show something to that effect. So now page UI customization. This is where you get to customize your own HTML and CSS. Now, how does this work? You can use static content or dynamic content. So if your server is running ASP.NET Node, something to that effect, you can dynamically generate content and give us a URL of that content. And what happens is we pull that content using JavaScript on the client, insert a username, password field, and some other UI into that page, and then we show it to the customer. So when I go in here, I'm going to just turn this on and say, yes, I'd like to use a custom page. And now all I have to do is paste my own URL here. Now I have some static content that I designed. Are you ready to see my design skills? Bam. Yes, thank you. I should just quit my day job right now, right? All right, so that's it. I'm going to click Create. Now, one of the nice features here is that, before I even hook this up to my application, I can just go into this policy, and I can click Run Now, and I can see what this experience is going to look like. So how do I connect this to my application? So B2C uses standards-compliant OpenID Connect protocol. And there's OpenID Connect libraries in all of your favorite languages. And you take a well-known metadata URL, and you paste it from the portal into your application, and that's pretty much it. So, in summary, built-in policies, they enable rapid development. Using built-in policies, you can get a pilot out there, in order of, hours or days. More than 90% of our tenants have at least one built-in policy. All right, this is Danish Railways. They have an online portal for booking train tickets and travel reservations. I wanted to show this one because it's fully localized. But again, yeah, they've fully branded the experience to make it their own. However, we know that there's complex scenarios out there. So next, we're going to talk about custom policy. This allows you to build your own set of instructions or workflow for our identity experience framework. So imagine you need to connect to another system, or you have another user store that you want to use in place, or maybe even migrate users into B2C. Maybe you have terms and conditions Maybe you want to trigger some workflow after they finish the sign-in process. Custom policy gives you all the power and flexibility to implement whatever you can imagine. So now we're going to do a demo of federating to an OpenID Connect provider. But I'm going to bring it back to Wingtip Toys. Let me explain the scenario. So I've got this site that my customers can log into and reserve their game rentals. But what I really need is I need my employees to be able to log in and curate this content. Now there's a couple ways I could do this. I could create a custom attribute in my B2C tenant. And this custom attribute could be is employee. And I could set it to true. But that's manual work. And that's not really what I want. I'd like my employees to use their existing corporate credentials, the ones that they use to log into Office 365. And when they leave the company, I'd like them to be automatically deprovisioned. So what we're going to do here is we're going to federate to the organization's directory for those employees to log in. And Azure Active Directory happens to be an OpenID Connect compliant directory, so I'm going to use OpenID Connect to federate. All right, here we are back in the B2C tenant, and I am going to open up the Identity Experience Framework here. And here I have all my custom policies. So you can see that I already have some custom policies uploaded. If I were to upload another policy, I would just click this button, go search on my file system, upload an XML file, and click upload, and that's how I would add additional custom policies. I'm going to show you kind of how this custom policy looks like in a minute, but first I'm just going to show you the user experience. So I'm going to open up this sign up or sign in with AAD custom policy that I've created, and just to make sure that I'm not got a cookie here, I'm going to open up another browser and paste that link in. All right, so here's my new sign-in experience. And now I have the ability to sign in as a consumer, or I have the ability to sign in as an employee. So what happens if I try and sign in as an employee? Well, it's going to federate or redirect me to log in to my corporate, this is Azure Active Directory. So I'm going to sign in with my corporate credentials here. And this is just a tool that we use. You can use it as well to inspect the ID token coming back from B2C. So this just allows you to take a look at the claims coming back. So let me zoom in here. One of the claims coming back here is the identity provider saying Azure AD Wingtip Toys Corp is where I logged in. So you could use this claim within your application to say, OK, this is an employee. I'm going to give this user admin privileges to go curate content within the application. So let's take a look at how this is done. So I said custom policies are XML. This is just one small snippet of the XML. This is just to kind of give you a peek into some of the magic of how I configured this. We also have documentation that I'm going to give you pointers to at the end of this presentation that gives you step-by-step how to set this up. So the protocol you can see here is OpenID Connect. I'm getting a JWT token back. I've pasted in my well-known metadata URL. I didn't paste the whole thing there. I have a ... there, but you'll paste your well-known metadata URL from your Azure Active Directory tenant, and then there's a set of claims that you're expecting back from that directory that you would enumerate. Okay, let's do another custom policy demo. So I mentioned earlier, some of you are looking for a way to trigger some sort of workflow when they complete the sign-in process. Maybe this is an email that tells them, hey, welcome to my service. Here are the things that you need to do to finish your setup process, or how you can engage with my service. And what we're going to do here is we're going to call out to our own Azure function. This Azure function is going to construct an email and use SendGrid to send that email. So you can plug in your own any service you want. I just chose SendGrid because I can go into the Azure portal in the marketplace and just go create SendGrid really easily. So again, I'm going to start with the end user experience, and then we'll go from there into how it's implemented. So this is actually a great opportunity to show lots of the capabilities of custom policies. I kind of call this the kitchen sink demo. I wouldn't do this for your sign-in policy because there's a lot of steps, and generally the more friction you create, yeah, the demo gods are not with me today. OK. So we're going to go about creating an account. And as I said, there's many steps in this. This is kind of show off all the different capabilities of custom policies. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in an email address. Send a verification code. While I'm waiting for that to arrive, I'm going to go choose a password. A display name. And here, I'm going to agree to some terms of service that they have. All right, now I'm going to click Create. It's going to take me to the next step of this journey. Now it's going to prompt me for a player tag. So what's going on here? We're actually going to call out to an Azure REST endpoint. This is an Azure function. And it's going to make sure that the player tag that I choose is unique. And I'm going to choose a player zone, a motto, and I'm going to agree to get some promotional offers. How about weekly? So another step in this journey through custom policy. What's going on here? Well, in this case, we're going to call out we're plugging in a different MFA service. In this case, we're going to use Azure MFA to set up a phone number. OK, I'm just going to show you what this looks like, and we'll see if it comes back. So after I validate my phone number, it's going to take me here, and it's going to say, congratulations for joining Wingtip Toys. And it's going to send me a welcome email. That welcome email basically is sent from SendGrid, looks like this. So how do you go about implementing this? So custom policy has a set of orchestration steps. You can think of this as a sequence in a workflow. So I've pulled out a lot of the steps to try and make this fit on this slide. I'm just showing you step number 3 and step number 5 because those are kind of relevant to this discussion. So step number 3, I'm reading the user object out of the directory, and then step number 5, I am going to call my Azure function that's going to call out to SendGrid. So read a user out of the directory. I've got an object ID from earlier in my workflow, and I'm going to use that object ID to look up the display name, the email, and the brand. In this case, Wingtip Toys might sell music and game rentals, and they may want to brand the email a certain way. So you can create all sorts of extension attributes within, custom attributes within your B2C tenant, and they'll have this name, extension underscore, whenever you create one of your own. So here we are in step number 5. So step number 3, we pulled out the name and email and all that other stuff. We're going to now use that here. So here's the protocol, RESTful provider. You've got a URL to your Azure function. And here are all the claims that we're going to pass to that Azure function. So in summary, we've got built-in policies and custom policies. Built-in, you can think of as ready-to-go templates. You configure them using the Azure portal. We have a set of ready-to-go identity providers. You still get to brand the experience and make it your own. Custom policy, you control every step. They're configured in XML, and you can integrate with your backend services, and you can configure any OpenID Connect or SAML provider. So we've got many customers on B2C, from retail to automotive. I'm going to jump into government. I think this is interesting because it's maybe a pattern that you'll see within your organization. One agency or department will go out and start using B2C. In this case, it was for small business sign-up. And once one department or one agency has adopted it, others will say, well, we've already got this relationship with our citizen or our customer. We should use that again. But I need my own branding for this other portal that I'm creating, and I need a different set of custom attributes. But I want to leverage that same customer relationship. And that what makes adoption easy. Don't think that you have to start with B2C overnight, migrate all of your data into it. There's a lot of flexibility here. Real Madrid, over 450 million fans on Facebook. We've seen success not just with Real Madrid, but a lot of other sports organizations. And they have these spikes, these peaks, where on game day, on ticket sales day, we have just a flood of customers coming in. And maybe you've got an on-prem solution, and you need to provision for these spikes. Maybe you've got retail business and you've got Black Friday. But this is kind of one of the reasons for the cloud exists, right? I mean, scalability and cost, right? So that's why we have this identity as a service. So what are the next steps? Well, we have documentation here. So all the things that I showed you in terms of creating a federation to an OpenID Connect provider, we've got these step-by-step guides that you can find at this top link. And we've also got a community of folks on Stack Overflow. So we have a lot of questions here. Just tag your question with Azure AD B2C. And our team is kind of monitoring that, and we'll jump on there, answer your questions. We've actually got a number of our PM team here today attending, so come find us after this talk through your scenario, and we're happy to help you. I'm here all day and available to talk through your how do you use custom policy? How to use built-in policy? How do you get started with this? You can go create your Azure AD tenant today, B2C tenant. There's an always free tier, 50,000 users, 50,000 authentications. And you don't even need a credit card to go create a B2C tenant. You can just go straight to the Azure portal and create your B2C tenant right now. I believe we have about 10 minutes here for questions. We have 2 mics here. I'm happy to answer anything for the group here.
My voice should be loud enough. For a use case which is not exactly a service, but a communication, secure communication between provider and customers, such as email that usually people do with PGP or S9, etc. Do you have a scenario that would use B2C for occasional secure collaboration with customers using Azure instead of encrypted email, for instance?
So I think the answer to the question would be we've got the ability within custom policy to do call outs to any sort of REST endpoint. So you could host something on Azure Functions that would then call into this service. I don't think there's any sort of native thing like SMTP directly from a custom policy. There's no way to So during password reset, we do have a service that's a password reset service. And the password reset service is replaceable. You could put your own in there, but that service does send email, but there's no way to use it for some other purpose.
But could you imagine, for instance, to create a portal where this collaboration is linked there instead of sending email, you send communication that points into the service and then you securely log in instead. That would be the exclusivity layer that would be okay. And another question is this service linked to Azure AD Premium in any way? So it's totally
No. It's its own service. It's not linked to Premium in any way. No.
it does not require.
It does. Yeah, it does not require.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, also, please evaluate this session. It'd be great to get your feedback.
We're developing an iPad app, using the Azure B2C. How do we retain the native iOS experience, without actually, going to a web page? Because using the web page on the iPad is not really user-friendly, especially for like a sign-up experience or sign-in.
Yeah, so there's this protocol called ROPC, Resource Owner Password Credential Flow. That's, I think, what you're looking for. So come talk to us afterwards, and when we have a private preview available, we can figure out how to get you into that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.